Hi, today we're cooking Cajun pork chops. This is Zack and I'm Alan, and we're going to go through the first ingredients. The first step is to take each ingredient and place it in a plastic bag. So right here we've got 1/4 cup all-purpose flour. Next we've got some garlic powder, half teaspoon. Then we've got ourselves some 1 teaspoon ground sage. Then we have smoked cayenne pepper. It's about half a teaspoon. Then we have some Creole seasoning. That's 1 teaspoon. And then we have 1 tablespoon paprika. Paprika is really good for giving the pork chop flavor. And black pepper, which is standard in most meat dishes. So the next step is to shake the bag. It's a fairly simple recipe. So basically we shake the bag so that we can mix all the spices together first, because if you were to put the meat in first without shaking the spices, your meat would cook unevenly flavor-wise. Some excellent shaking there, Zach. Our next step is to place the 4 pork chops we have into the bag. So one by one, I'm going to put the pork chops in while Zach shakes the bag. That's 1 pork chop. That's 2 pork chops. 3. And our last one, 4. Now, while Zach shakes the pork chops, I'm going to add the oil. It is olive oil, about 2 teaspoons of olive oil. We're going to be adding this to a normal sized skillet. Probably you'd want a larger sized skillet if you're cooking more pork chops like we are. So about this size. We're going to be at around 350 degrees starting off in this pan. So we're going to heat the oil while Zach shakes the pork chops.
If you'd have to look at the pork chops to make sure that they're well coated, that's acceptable.
You don't want to unevenly coat the pork chops, because then, like I said earlier, the flavor, you'd get a taste of something spicy on one side and a taste of something bitter on the other because they didn't get to mix, and it wouldn't taste like an authentic Cajun pork chop.
Just waiting for the oil to heat up here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it seems to be heating up quite nicely. The sides are starting to get a little
Make sure you get the oil around in the whole pan so that the meat will cook well on the sides if it's sliding around in there.
Now it's about time to add the pork chops.
Yes.
When the oil is heated. So, yes.
And it's important when we add the pork chops that we decrease the temperature from 350 degrees to about, would you say 250?
Yes. And I'm only going to add about 2 pork chops at a time just to conserve some room here.
Yeah. We're only cooking 2 at a time because if we were to fit the 4 that we have currently, it just wouldn't be good for cooking them all the way through. Yes. Now we're going to allow about 8 to 16 minutes for, or 6 to 8 minutes, sorry, for them to cook on each side. 16 minutes would be way too long, and you'd burn these poor pork chops.
Now they've been going for about maybe 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, so it would be about time to flip them over because they're starting to get a little brown.
Yeah, you want to go for maximum brownness on both sides, because then you know it's looking good and it's cooking good.
Just as a review, so far for techniques, we have used measuring, mixing, frying, and we'll show you another one later, which is plating.
Now earlier I made a mistake by saying that you should lower the temperature all the way down to 250 when you add the pork chops. That's not nearly enough to cook the pork chops.
Probably like 280, 290.
Yeah, 280 would be good, and then as the pork chops cook, you want to raise it slightly more if needed. Everyone's stovetop is different, so you're going to need to have a different monster temperature for each one.
If you'd like to, you can also just keep reshaping the pork chops that are still in the bag, just to keep the seasonings fresh. That's always an option. It's a great meal to prepare the night before. You know, you can mix all the ingredients together the night before or right when you get home from work, so that way, you know, when it comes time for dinner, you don't have to mess around with all that. You can just throw it in the pan and fry it out.
Yeah, and since the spices are all dry ingredients, you could easily store them away in a fridge or in a nice cool place with your pork chops.
As you can see here, this side of the pork chop is kind of starting to look a little bit like fried chicken.
Yeah.
That pleases you.
Yeah.
That golden brownness is a good sign that they're cooking nicely.
Another good sign is the smells. If you're smelling a lot of the spices that have been mixed together well, the smell will be a mixture of all of them. You want to make sure they're not getting stuck to the pan, because that would be really bad.
All your spices rip off, and you know that's not a fun experience.
No. And you have burned pork stuck to the bottom of your pan.
Flip these and see how they're doing on this side, see if they need a little longer. Nope, don't need a little longer. Another good way to measure the doneness of meat is by how firm it is. It's just a technique that I've always used, and it's always come out very tender, just because you want it to get to the point where it's not, you know, flopping around like the meat in the bag right there.
Yep.
As you can see, this is kind of almost standing up on its own, which is good.
How soon would you say that we should add the other ones? The other two?
Well, I'm gonna take these off in maybe 1 or 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Probably this one.
Pre-planning is a very important technique to have when you're cooking, so that you know what your next step is. As you can see, we've prepared a plate. It's important to pick a plate of the right size, or else you'll be forcing all of your food onto one plate, and it would just end up not looking that great.
Now these are just about done.
Yeah.
Turn the heat on again.
Ooh. I like that sound.
Now, what you want to do, this is a very good technique to use if you're in a restaurant of some sort, or if you're going into, you know, like a bakery or something, and you really want your cake to look
A culinary
nice.
profession.
What you want to do is you want to really get them on there neatly, and don't have grease and oil and spices spattered all over the place, because that will make it very unappetizing. If you can, try to line them up so they're easy to access.
You want to make sure you get a majority of that grease off so it doesn't pool around in the plate.
I just need the other.
Now we're going to add the other two so that we can complete the 4 pork chops that have been coated in Cajun seasoning.
Now, just as a review, some of the techniques we've used are measuring, mixing, frying, and plating.
Pre-planning.
Pre-planning. There's 5 for you.
If the devil brought it, the good
Now that you have your fried Cajun pork chops on your plate, you can test the doneness, not only by firmness, like I said before, but by just cutting in to the chop itself. And as you can see here, It has more of a white color than pink, which means that it's done and you won't get sick from it because
Thoroughly cooked it.
yes. You really want to check the center though because that's what will take the longest to cook. It looks to me here that that's pretty well done, if you would say. If you want it a little bit more, cooked because you like your meat petrified, you can cook it like that. I wouldn't really suggest much less cooking time than this because, you don't want to get you or your entire family sick. So that's been the Cajun pork chop. This recipe will make 4 pork chops. You can always double the recipe, cut the recipe in half. It really just depends on how much you need to make.
You will hear me say, baby, won't you please come home?